All right, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I should say. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Aquarium of the Pacific's Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Talia. I'm with our education department here at the aquarium, and we're going to have an opportunity this afternoon to talk about a really interesting habitat, which is kind of behind me there. We're going to be talking about the kelp forest today. And if you guys have any questions, if you want to share any observations during our time here today, you are welcome to text your questions to this phone number right over there, 562 286 1838. So you guys are welcome to text in your questions or observations to that number right there. Or if you're watching it later, if you're not watching it live, you can email us at live@lbaop.org. So you guys are welcome to participate through either one of those options through our time today. So let's take a moment to make some observations about the kelp forest. Now, kelp is all this green stuff that's behind me. So take a moment. I want you guys to take a moment and make some observations. What do you guys notice? I think it's pretty cool that it's swaying back and forth. Pretty relaxing. Now, a question that we get asked a lot is kelp a plant? And it's not quite a plant. It's a little bit simpler than that. It's actually an algae. So algae is a little simpler than a plant because it doesn't have a root structure like a flower does, and instead has something called a holdfast. I'm actually going to get a piece of kelp we have over here just to show you a little bit closer what kelp looks like. So this is kelp here. This is a piece of artificial kelp that we have here. And it has a couple different parts to it. This long part over here, this is the blade of the kelp. It's almost like a leaf. And that's actually where the kelp gets a lot of its nutrients from the sunlight there. It does photosynthesize like a plant does. It has what's called a stipe, which is this long part over here. It's kind of like your stem. And then it has this funny little thing here. It has an air bladder. So an air bladder actually helps the kelp float up to the surface. So kelp grows all the way from the bottom all the way to the top of the water there. It actually grows taller than the water is high. It flops over to the side, and then it keeps growing horizontally. And in just the right conditions, it can grow an amazing 2 feet in a day, which is pretty interesting. Now the bottom, let me go find that on my model here. The bottom is where that holdfast is, and that's what anchors the kelp to the rock or the ground that's underneath it. And I see we have a question. We have a question about what lives in a kelp forest. That is an excellent question. There are so many animals that live in the kelp forest. I want to say there's like hundreds and hundreds of different types of animals. And then this is actually our kelp forest here at the aquarium. We got a fish saying hello to you. But there's lots and lots of different types of fish that live in the kelp forest. We got one of our giant sea bass going to be coming over my head in just a moment here. That's that big fish with the polka dots there. And we also have, there's a picture, I'll get out of the way there. There's a close-up of our giant sea bass. That's one of our friends who lives in the kelp forest. Sea lions can live in the kelp forest as well. And then I think that what's cool about a kelp forest too is a whole bunch of different invertebrates live in the kelp forest too. So that would be things like urchins, sea stars, worms, crabs, snails. In that holdfast section, just that piece alone, you can have hundreds and hundreds of little tiny little creepy crawlies all in that one little spot. So it's a really, really interesting place to find a whole bunch of different animals. Here's some more of our fish ones. And there's some sharks too. I don't know if our leopard shark is going to swim by. That would be awesome. There's a sea star on the rock. Thank you, Miss Amanda. But yeah, sharks can live in the kelp forest too. But let's take a moment to look at that holdfast. Oh, there's a shark. I'll get out of its way. That's Sam. We call that shark Sam. He says, I am on the other side. His spots spell out letters, which is pretty cool. Let's go take a look over at my document camera over here, and we'll take a little bit closer look at what that holdfast looks like. So this is kind of what the anchor point of that kelp forest, or excuse me, that kelp looks like. You can see it has all sorts of little nooks and crannies for all those little worms and crabs and snails and whatnot to live in. So I think it's a really cool structure that they have on the bottom that help keep them anchored. Now we use kelp as well. We actually use kelp in a lot of different products that you might not even realize that you are looking or that you're eating something or interacting with something that has some kelp in it. So we use a product from kelp called algin as an emulsifier. It's used to hold stuff together and keep things mixed. So it's in things like toothpaste, ice cream, Jello, makeup, salad dressing to kind of hold all those different ingredients. Chocolate milk also sometimes has kelp in it. So if you look in your ingredients list and you see something like algin or carrageenan or what's the other one? Alginine, I think, or agar. Those are all products that come from kelp. And then we, like I mentioned, it grows very quickly. It grows about 2 feet in a day. So we can actually harvest that as a sustainable resource, which is pretty cool. I got a hello from Ruby and Sam. Hello, Ruby and Sam. Oh, and I like that they noticed that the holdfast looks like tree roots. I agree with you. It does definitely look like tree roots. And then that's a great observation. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's talk a little bit about some of those other animals that live in the kelp forest. Oh, Miss Amanda put up a nice video of some sea lions. So take a moment. What do you think they're doing? They look like they're playing. I remember one of my friends was saying it. I think that they looks like they're using the kelp as an obstacle course. So definitely a lot of animals use the kelp as their home. They also will find their food in it. So sea lions might be looking for some fish or some other friends to eat. Now the kelp forest not only has a lot of different animals that live within it, they also have animals that are living in different layers of the kelp. So that's my friend Ruby and Sam said that they noticed that the holdfast looks like tree roots. The kelp forest, excuse me, has layers to it, a little bit like a rainforest does. So way up at the top where you have all the sunlight coming down, that's called the canopy. It's nice and thick up there, so it is a great hiding spot for younger fish to hide in. The middle tends to be a little bit more open, so that's a great spot for some larger fish like we see here in our Amber Forest exhibit or our Blue Cavern as well. There's Sam, our leopard shark, coming by again. But it's a great spot for those bigger animals to hang out. And then all the way towards the bottom, that's where we're going to find, you can also find sharks there. Leopard sharks actually will kind of take a nap. On the bottom, you'll find things like our giant sea bass. You'll find, again, all sorts of those invertebrates as well, kind of hanging out on the bottom. So there's a, oh, actually, I'll talk about this guy. That one. That is a sheephead. And that's another animal that lives in the kelp forest. I think it's really striking, the pattern that they have on their body. So the males have a white chin. They have a black head and a black tail and kind of a red middle to them as well. And then the girls are kind of pink all the way through. So that was one of our California sheepheads that was kind of hanging out in the back there. So again, Amanda's, I think, going to pull up another picture for me. It just swam by. That's okay. So again, lots of different fish call the kelp forest their home. And again, if you guys have any questions or observations during our time here today, you guys are welcome to text in those responses. Amanda will put up that number again in just a little bit. But one of the invertebrates that lives in the kelp forest is an urchin. And a sea urchin is a pretty cool little guy. You might have seen them here at the aquarium, maybe out if you got tide pools near where you live, you may have seen them as well. This is what an urchin looks like. Oh my gosh, so many questions. So I'll get to those in just a moment. So an urchin is one of those guys that lives in the kelp forest, and they actually like to eat kelp. So they'll actually eat that holdfast, that kind of root-looking structure. They'll mow right through that, and that's one of their favorite foods to eat. So I had a question, where does kelp live? It actually lives in a lot of places. It's along most of the west coast and the northeast coast of North America. It's in southern Australia. It's in Russia and Japan. It's in northern Europe, in South Africa, and also along the west coast of South America. So kelp actually lives in a whole bunch of different places, and we're actually, lucky to be one of those here at the aquarium. We're lucky to have one of those places that has kelp off of our coast. So it definitely is a really unique habitat to come see and come visit. There's people that come, from all over to experience kelp forests here in California and other places around the world. So definitely something neat to check out. So one more question. Bella is asking, that's an excellent question, Bella. Bella is asking, where is the urchin's mouth? It is underneath them. So this is the top of the urchin. So underneath them, they have like 5 little teeth that kind of looks like this. It's called Aristotle's lantern. It's actually really pretty. It's all these kind of loops on the other side. So they have 5 little chompers underneath their body there on the underside of the urchin. So they'll actually kind of graze on the kelp there. I think they kind of scratch it up and eat it that way. But yeah, urchins will eat kelp. They love to eat kelp. And there's another animal that likes to eat the urchin. Oh, Miss Amanda has a picture of the mouth. That is great. Thank you. Oh, I'm gonna go this way. Get out of the middle there. So that is the picture of the mouth there. So kind of right in between all those little tube feet. So urchins have 2 feet, very similar to sea stars, which they're related to, by the way. And then right in the middle there, let me see if I can point. That's their mouth right there. This is hard to do backwards. That's their mouth right there, right in the middle. So that is the mouth of urchin. Thank you so much, Miss Amanda, for pointing that out for me. So one animal that likes to eat urchins is a sea otter, which you may have seen before. This otter, it's pretty adorable. Otters will like to eat sea urchins. They actually eat so many sea urchins that sometimes their teeth can turn purple. So if you've ever eaten a popsicle and your kind of mouth has turned the color, or a lollipop of whatever that was, that's kind of what happens with the otter's teeth. So you can actually tell which otters really like urchins because their teeth kind of are purple. They get kind of stained from the dye of the urchins there. Here's another picture of an urchin. Yes. Oh, and you can actually really see the 2 feet really well in this picture too. I'll kind of get out of the way so you guys can take a good pic. Ooh, I had another question come in about urchin. So it asked, can uni, which is a way to say urchin, can uni be different colors? So uni is a part of the urchins that people eat, and it's usually kind of a yellow to an orange color. So I think it kind of stays within that realm, but from Anik. Thank you, Anik, for your question. That was an awesome question. So yeah, uni is the part of the urchin that eat, and normally kind of in that yellow to orange range. And here's all those little 2 feet on the urchin. So they actually move with those 2 feet as well. So otters, again, will kind of eat those urchins. They actually eat so many urchins that they play a really important role in the kelp forest. So the otters will eat the urchins, and they will kind of keep that population in check. It's not getting too high. It's not getting too low. And that, in turn, is keeping our kelp forest nice and healthy. Because if the urchins ate all the kelp, and again, remember they're going for that root, that bottom portion. So if they eat all of that, all the rest of that kelp that goes all the way to the surface, it's going to float away, and it's not going to provide a home anymore for the animals that need it. So otters help keep that urchin population in check. It's not too high, not too low, and they play a really important role in keeping that kelp forest nice and healthy. Ooh, I got another question from Sam and Ruby. Says, do inverts, that would be invertebrates for our viewers at home, do inverts live in the holdfast of the kelp? They sure do. So they actually, you can, I saw a display at a museum once that had taken one holdfast, and they had looked in to see what they could find in just that one holdfast. And Sam and Ruby, there were like hundreds of little crabs and worms and all sorts of little things, all just within that one holdfast. So yeah, definitely lots of inverts can live in the holdfast. I got Lilani asked, do urchins live in the kelp forest? They do. So they will definitely live in the kelp forest, and again, they like to eat that bottom portion of the kelp, so it's probably good that they're nearby. And then Manuel asked, how do urchins move? Oh, Manuel, that's a great question as well. So again, they have those 2 feet and 2 feet. I wonder if Miss Amanda can get that picture back on for me. 2 feet, actually you can see it in this one too, the little threads in between the spines, and they're sticky. If you've ever touched the bottom of a sea store in Anemone or had like one of those sticky hands at home, they were like little tiny suction cups on the end there. You can kind of see it kind of as a flat end to it. And they'll use that to move. So they'll put one in front of the other, 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 in front of the other. And that's how the urchin will move across the ground there. That's a great question. Thank you so much for your questions today. So I think we were talking about otters. We were talking about our urchins and how they play a really important role in the kelp forest. And you might ask yourself, what are some things that I could do to help out the kelp forest as well? So there's a couple things that you guys can do as well. One of the things that helps is to support things that are helping keep the kelp forest nice and healthy. And one of those things is what's called a marine protected area, or an MPA. And a marine protected area is kind of like having a state park, but it's underwater. So our blue cavern, the real blue cavern, which is a kelp forest site off of an island that's nearby here called Catalina Island, is an MPA. And they've said that kind of set that area aside, so you can't really go fishing or boating in or take things from there. And that's kind of doing a couple of things. So one, it's protecting important breeding grounds, important nursery grounds. So remember we said that baby fish like to live up at the top of kelp. So they will protect those nursery grounds and breeding grounds for fish. And they'll also help kind of give that area a break as well. If maybe they were recovering from something, that'll help those populations come back in greater number there. So supporting MPAs is a great way to help out the kelp forest. Another way to help out is to eat sustainable seafood. So choosing fish that are being taken out of the ocean in a responsible manner is a great way to help out our kelp forest as well. And that just makes sure that there's enough fish left in the ocean to make sure that that population stays at a stable level. So you might ask, kind of, how do I know where my fish comes from? How do I know that this fish that I'm eating is sustainable? A great way is just kind of to ask. Sometimes you can look for different certifications. A lot of times fish that are fished within the U.S., the United States of America, has a great number of kind of regulations in place. So if it was fished in the U.S., that's another way to help out, or to know a little bit better that your fish is coming from a sustainable source. You can also check out, we have a website here at the aquarium called seafoodforthefuture.org. That's another way to learn a little bit more about sustainable seafood. I think sometimes we have a list of what types of fish to be looking for depending on the season, and maybe even a list of restaurants as well. So that is definitely some other ways to help out. And make sure that our kelp forests stick around for a long time. Ooh, somebody asked, do sharks live in a kelp forest? And they do. A couple different sharks can live in the kelp forest. So we saw a leopard shark earlier in our amber forest there. I don't know if he's swimming around again. So we have leopard sharks. Let's go see if we can go find him. I bet he's taking a nap now. But definitely leopard sharks can live in a kelp forest. A couple other local species, at least here off of California. Oh, thank you, Sam. You're so nice and swimming across the screen there. That's a leopard shark there, and I think their patterning is really cool. They kind of have stripes and spots, but the stripes kind of look like little U's instead. And then we also have horn sharks and swell sharks. So there's definitely some local species of sharks that can live in the kelp forest. Thank you so much for asking that. Sharks are definitely one of our cool animals to see here at the kelp forest as well. Because a lot of times we have divers going with our sharks here at the aquarium, and then they ask, oh, should we, be nervous? And they actually say, sharks are actually a treat to see. Because a lot of times, especially when you're scuba diving and you're making a whole bunch of noise, sharks are like, I'm going that way. So it's definitely a treat to see. Oh, there's a close up of our leopard shark here. So you can kind of see it has those kind of big U-shaped kind of blotches or stripes, but then it also has some polka dots on it as well. So I think we have a few more minutes left in our program today. I wanted to take an opportunity. Actually, I'm going to go put something else up on the document camera. Let me go switch it out here. I'm going to move the hold fast here. Oh. Okay. So this is what an urchin looks like, what their skeleton looks like. So it's called a test. And you can see all these little kind of spines, these little bumps here. Let me see if actually I can zoom in. Oh, that looks awesome. Okay, so those little bumps here, those are where the little spines would be attaching to. And then my friend who was asking about the mouth, let me go flip it over. So this other hole here, this is where that mouth would be, and you'd have the 5 little chomper teeth there. So that is kind of what the test of a sea urchin looks like. I'll flip that back so you guys can see all. Sure, and then Amanda just put up a picture of, again, kind of what that mouth looks like. And then it would be on this side here. That's where that would be. So another type of animal that lives in a kelp forest. Ooh, I think I have another question here. Ooh, what is my favorite kelp forest animal and why? That is an excellent question. My favorite is probably a sea star. I like sea stars. I think it's really interesting that here's some bat stars behind me. They can come in all sorts of different colors. They can have all sorts of different body shapes as well. So some of them have that kind of webbing, like the bat stars. Some of them have more kind of long arms as well. Some of them have really snaky arms, like brittle stars. And they also regrow their arms, which is crazy. So they will, if they lose an arm, they can actually start to regrow that arm back over time. So I think that's really cool that they can regenerate their limbs. This is a good view of the underside where all their 2 feet are on the bottom there. Ooh, what is the whole of the urchin test? So the one at the top, I'm trying to remember what the hole at the top is. Yeah, I think that might be just where you have like another pore up here. And then this is the big hole. That's where the mouth would be. Thanks again for all your great questions this afternoon. I sure do appreciate it. So an abalone is another one of those inverts that live in the kelp forest. Here's some pictures of some behind me. There's actually quite a few there. Can you guys see them? Did you guys see a whole? See a whole bunch of rocks. Actually quite a few. Let me see if I can get my fingers to move in the right direction. There's one there, and there, and there, and there. And I think there's even one there as well. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably at least 6 abalones in there. So abalone are a type of snail that can live in the kelp forest. And so you're looking at the hard shell there. You can kind of see there's a little bit of kind of a darker body underneath that, and that is the rest of the animal underneath that shell. Now, one of the things that's really interesting here at the aquarium is we also have another great conservation story with our abalone. I'll touch on that for just a few moments here. So we were able to raise abalone here at the aquarium, and just recently we were able to partner with a couple other institutions to actually release some of those babies out into the ocean, and we're still doing some studies to see how they're doing, but we're really hoping that the little babies that got out there can grow up nice and strong, and we can help add back to their population account, because they're actually an endangered species. So we're really excited to be part of that conservation story here at the aquarium. Let's see, Stacy's writing some questions there. Oh, there's 6 snails. I agree with you, friends. I believe there were 6. There are 6 abalones behind me there. I concur. Ooh, what do abalone eat? I believe they're kind of grazers, so I'm going to think that they're going to be eating little algae that's kind of growing on the rocks. You guys can kind of see all these sort of spots on the rocks behind me. They'll kind of run along those, and I think they have, do they have a radula, Miss Amanda? They have a what's called a radula. It's like a scraping tongue. If you guys have cats at home, their tongue's kind of rough. It's kind of like that. So they're kind of running that scraping tongue along the rock, and they are. That's how they're picking up that algae to eat. That's a great question. Actually, speaking of abalone, let me see if I have a shell. I do. While we're playing with the document camera. So this is kind of, ooh, that's close. Let's go zoom out. This is kind of how we were seeing it in that picture. Let me see if I can get, ooh, that's not the way I want it to go. There we go. So that's kind of how we were seeing it in the picture there, but one of the cool things about the abalone shell, if you turn it over, it is, let me turn the lights down a little bit. It is very, very shiny on the inside there. So if you guys heard of like mother of pearl, it actually comes from the inside of things like abalone. They make a special shiny secretion in there. It actually protects the animal. But it's really, really pretty. So I think that's pretty cool. You have this really plain, unassuming shell, but it's really, really pretty on the inside. So I think we are just about out of time here, but I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here at the Aquariums Online Academy. Again, you guys are welcome to text in those questions either to this number on your screen or email us if you're watching this at a later time. You're welcome to email us at live@lbaop.org. So again, thank you guys so much for joining me here and learning a little bit more about our kelp forest and what we can do to help it out and all the amazing animals that live within it. So thank you guys again, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And thanks, guys.